Today, let's talk about losers. Losers? Well, I mean cars that lose value. That's what I'm talking about. Cars that lose value or depreciate, say in the first 3 years or even in the first year. So I'm going to go through some websites that I found recently looking through which are the biggest depreciating cars right now. So we're going to go through those, and I'll give you an indication of which cars are losing, extraordinary amounts, of value as soon as they drive out of the showroom, quite frankly. Now, don't forget, the thing to keep in mind about these cars that depreciate really heavily, losers in the sense that they've lost value, their owners also, I guess, being losers in the sense that they bought the car new and now it's worth maybe in some cases even less than 50% of what they paid for it. But winners in the sense that people who are now looking to buy a car, if you get a 3-year-old car, then it's hardly used in some cases. It's still a relatively new car. At 3 years, it still will feel like a fresh car. And certainly a year-old car will frankly feel like you've just bought it. So these are cars that, okay, losers, yes, but for some people, potentially winners. Which are the cars? Let's get into it right after this.
A brown car guy.
So we're checking out the WhatCar website first, and obviously there are going to be quite a few EVs on this list. And the number one car on their list, this car loses, it retains 28.6% of its value after 3 years. So what's that? That is, if my math is correct, 71.4%. I think it loses in 3 years. Wow. And so this car starts at a price of £29,045 and loses nearly £21,000 to end up with a 3-year, 36,000 mile resale value of £8,300. We are talking about the Vauxhall Corsa Electric. First of all, the thing to keep in mind though, Vauxhall Corsa, I mean this is the small car, this is the city car from Vauxhall. £29,000, over £29,000 new. And it could be argued that these cars that suffer a big depreciation hit initially are really not depreciating so much as finding their real value in the marketplace, if you see what I mean. Price of a Corsa in most people's heads, you're probably still thinking about £17,000, something like that. To realize that they're up at nearly 30k is extraordinary. So in the used market, obviously they're going to come down to more realistic levels where the perception of that car or the price perception of that car actually exists. Anyway, that's one to look at. If you're looking at a cheap EV, then that could be something worth checking out, because at £8,300, well below £10,000 for a 3-year-old electric car. That's worth thinking about. DS9, DS, the luxury arm of Citroën, kind of. DS9, this is not electric, this is, I think, is it diesel or petrol? It's a 1.6E, I think it's a petrol, 1.6E. They're looking at the E-Tense 4x4 Opera. List price, £61,800. It loses, well over, in fact, it loses nearly £44,000. Retained value of 29.4%, so that's 70.6% it loses in 3 years. And you can pick one up for £18,200. So just 3 years on from when it would have left the showroom at nearly £62,000, you can pick it up for £18,000. And you know what? It's a nice luxury car. That there are not a lot of nice styling touches, a lot of little details and stuff like that. It's a big comfy cruiser actually, so that's not a bad car for that money at just 3 years old. Number 3, Mazda MX-30. Mazda MX-30, the model is the Makota. Now this thing is actually the electric version, right? And the electric version, so when they came out with this car, it didn't have a lot of range. And that was quite a bit of a downside with this car. They have since redressed that problem, and I have reviewed it. They have now done a range extender hybrid version with a little rotary engine, a little rotary combustion engine in it. So the rotary engine returns. And that's a much better proposition, because you don't have to worry about the range, which is only about 124 miles fully charged. So it's not a lot. Realistically, for a lot of people, that's enough around town. You know, most commutes every day about 30 miles or less. So for a lot of people that would be enough, but just the perception of I've only got 124 miles, that really doesn't help. New price, 32,395. Wow, well over £32,000. Retained value, 30.6%. So that's 69.4% lost in 3 years. Price is £9,900. It loses nearly £22,500. So from 32,000, over 32,000 to less than 10,000 in 3 years. Now, again, if you have a charger at home, you live in a house, you have a charger at home, and your commute is generally just to the shops or the schools or something like that, that's not a bad car to look at. For 10 grand, come on, that's not bad. And it's a nicely styled thing as well. Next up, we've got a Jeep Compass. And this thing is a 1.3 litre, starting price, brand new, £44,655. So basically £45,000 for this compact SUV, I would call it. 3 years, 36,000 miles on, and it only keeps 31.1% of its value. So that is, what is that? Hang on, I'm going to get this wrong now. 68.9% lost, if I got that correct. Lost £30,780. Can I just say that again? In 3 years and 36,000 miles, a car that costs well over £44,500 new lost £30,780. It's nearly £31,000, and you can buy it for £13,875. Wow. For a £45,000 car. That's a bit of a bargain. Talking of bargains, oh my God. The biggest losers in depreciation are often big, large luxury cars. Now, these cars are initially quite overpriced, and they are so because they're normally bought by companies and by fleets, normally for their directors or as chauffeur services or airport runs, stuff like that. So they just buy them because it's part of their business, so they have to pay the inflated price. But again, that thing I said earlier about cars finding their real value in the used market. So that often happens with big luxury barges because they're initially very expensive to buy, they're expensive to run. So in the used market, people are like, well, you know, I wouldn't mind it, but I'm not paying that much for it. So what's happened to the Audi A8? The Audi A8 55 TFSI Quattro Sport Tiptronic. What a beast of a thing this is. I mean, A8s are fantastic cars. That is a beast of a luxury car, packed with tech, packed with equipment, comfy, clever, utterly brilliant, will chew up miles like nothing else. Brand new list price, £82,485. Retained value after 3 years, 36,000 miles, 31.4%. It lost £56,585. And that car that was sold initially for nearly £82,500 is now worth £25,900, so less than £26,000, which is cheaper than a brand new Vauxhall Corsa electric. I know which one I'd rather have. And sticking with the large German luxury machines, at number 6 on this list, on this particular list, we've got the BMW 8 Series, and we're talking the M850i X-Drive with a 523 brake horsepower V8 engine, twin turbo 4 litre V8 in this thing. Brand new list price of this car, £117,975, so £118,000. Retained value, 3 years, 36,000 miles, 32.2%. It lost £80,000. It lost £80,000 in 3 years, and now this £118,000 car can be yours for £37,975. Now that is still quite a lot of money. Let's be honest, that's nearly 40 grand. That's quite a lot of money. But this is a 4 litre twin turbo BMW V8 850. It's got the look, it's got the style, it's got the solidity, it's got the class, and it's got the price tag of £120,000 near enough. And you could be rocking up in it for less than 40. So if you put it in that context, that's not bad at all. And it will have been looked after because these big luxury cars often are. At number 7, we have the Lexus UX300E. This is Lexus's first electric vehicle. Has it been out that long? Yeah, I think it was 2020 or something like that when it was launched, and we're talking 2025, so yeah, it has been out that long. This is the 150 kilowatt Takumi, and they're looking at a brand new list price of 50,995, so 51,000 pounds. In 3 years, at 36,000 miles, it has a retained value of 32.5%. It loses 34,445 pounds. You can pick up this car that initially cost nearly 51,000 pounds. You can pick it up at 36,000 miles, 3 years, for 16,550, so 16,500 pounds. That's a brilliant car for that money, and you know that it will carry on going on and on and on and on. That's not bad at all. We come to another DS. This is the DS3. This is at position number 8 in this list of this particular roundup of depreciating cars, and this is the E-Tense Palace. Brand new price 31,200, 36,000 miles. 3 years later, it lost 21,000 pounds, retained only 31.69%, and was worth 10,200 pounds. So you pay a third of the price of the car when it was new. Again, it's a DS. This is the luxury arm, so it's well equipped. It's nice. It's got nice little detail touches and stuff like that. So it's not a bad car for the money. Moving on to number 9, we have another Audi, and the Audi is the Audi A6. This is the 50 TFSI Quattro Sport S-Tronic. So again, another thumping, proper barge of a German thing. Although it's got the petrol engine, it is a plug-in hybrid, so you can do a lot of miles on just EV power alone. I think it's got a range of 34 miles. It's got a 2-litre petrol engine. It'll do 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6.2 seconds. So this thing, brand new, was 60,585 pounds. Wowzers. 3 years and 36,000 miles on. It retained 32.72% of its value. It dropped 40,760 pounds. And so 3 years on, you could pick it up for under 20k at 19,825 pounds. So wow. So 60 grand new, over 60 grand new, and 3 years on, less than 20. So rounding out the top 10 on this particular roundup of depreciating cars, we have the Peugeot E208. I think, isn't that essentially the same as the electric Corsa? Same family, so underneath I think it's the same vehicle. But it does a little bit better because it retains 33.1% of its value, 36,000 miles, 3 years on. This is for the Allure model, which sold brand new for 20,950 pounds. So nearly 30,000 pounds. And it loses 20,000 pounds, and you can pick it up for 9,925 pounds. So similarly, it's less than 10,000 pounds, a third of the value, 3 years on. So that's not bad. You go about 224 miles of range. So again, if you're, like I said, if you live in a town, you have short commutes, you can charge the car at home, less than 10 grand. That's a good looking little thing, actually. Hope you're enjoying this video. Make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe if you're not already doing so. And support independent automotive journalism channels like mine. You can do that at patreon.com, coffee.com, or taking out a subscription right here on YouTube. Or you know what, better still, you can go and buy my books. I've got 3 books out now. They're all on Amazon. They're all available to buy. More details on this are in the description, but buying any of these books will certainly help. Thanks so much for watching. Right, so we're not going to let up the pace. And there's a little segue there, stick with me. We're going to move on to the next list, which is actually from AutoExpress, and they've done the same thing. They've done 10. They've done it the other way around though, so they've gone at number 10. They have the Jaguar I-Pace. So you see what I did there, keeping up the pace, Jaguar I-Pace. Yeah. Anyway, Jaguar I-Pace, which actually was one of the pioneers outside of, say, Tesla with electric cars. Jaguar was one of the first in with it, and they've been pretty slow since then, until now they've taken a hiatus and they're supposedly coming back with an electric range. But they were in there early with this car. So the problem with this car is that whilst it was ahead of the game, and it wasn't a bad car to drive. I have driven it, and it wasn't a decent car, all round. It looked okay and stuff like that. But compared to what you have now, it dated very quickly. So therefore, there's not a lot of interest in these cars now. They don't make them anymore. They're not selling them anymore anyway. We're looking at the 90 kilowatt 400R dynamic, retained value after 3 years and 36,000 miles. 30.75%, brand new. Just hope you're sitting down for this. This Jaguar I-Pace. Remember, it's a compact sort of crossover-y sort of thing, right? Brand new. £69,995, £70,000. Retained value now, like I said, after 3 years, 36,000 miles, £21,525. So again, it goes back to the cars finding their real value when they hit the used market. Having said that, I mean, like I said, it's a Jaguar. It was okay, you know, I mean, it was ahead of the game. It's got 292 mile range, they claim. Would I recommend it? I probably wouldn't, because there's just newer, more advanced stuff out there. But anyway, if you want an electric Jaguar, that one's out there for quite a bit less than it was brand new. Number 9 on their list is the Maserati Ghibli. Now this is a car I heartily would recommend, especially it's got a 3.8 litre V8. This is the 580 Ultima. This car was basically 160 grand new, so £159,625, brand new. 30.68% it retains after 3 years, 36,000 miles. That brings the price down to a still expensive, it's just under 50k. It's £48,975. But having said that, you rock up at any event. I mean, this car is cool, it's stylish, it has a much better interior now. And I do like the old quattroporters and the old Gran Turismo, but they really sorted out the interior with the Ghibli. And the handling and stuff was still great. I actually like the Ghibli over the later generation quattroporte. So this is actually a great car. So for less than 50k, and to rock up anywhere outside any posh place or party in this thing, that's pretty cool. So I would say that is definitely worth looking at. They also bring the Audi A6 into the list of heavy depreciating cars. This one is a S6 3-litre TDI, so this is the diesel, and retains 30.42% after 3 years and 36,000 miles. So brand new price was £87,925, so £88,000. Used, you can get it for £26,750. And number 7 on their list, interestingly, is also the Vauxhall Corsa electric. So they've also got there on there. They have a slightly different, I think, depreciation range or depreciation retained value at the 36,000 mile and 3 years. So the previous one that I quoted to you was at 28.6%. They're a little bit kinder to the car. They've quoted 30.34%. So again, you know, there are various companies out there that do this depreciation. They do it for banks and finance companies or what have you. There's CAP, there's Glasses Guide, and there's, you know, others as well. Parkers, I used to work for Parkers. So there's sometimes a slight differences based on the research that they've done. But still, I mean, we're talking about the same sort of thing. Now this is interesting. They have got the GWM Aura 03, or as it used to be known, the Funky Cat. I reviewed this car when it came out. I really liked it. I thought it was a really nice, friendly, easy to use EV with a lot of personality for a little car from China. And calling it a Funky Cat, initially you thought that's a dumb name, but then you thought actually it's kind of cute. It kind of works for it. And then they went and changed the name. I don't know why. I think they should have stuck with the Funky Cat thing anyway. So they're looking at the 48 kilowatt 171 Pure Plus. They say retained value of 30.24%, brand new, £32,000. Value at this point, £9,675. Again, well below a third of its value. I think that's a good car, actually, to be honest. At 10 grand, again, you know, if you just commute around town, you can charge at home with a little bit of style, and it's got little characters and stuff in it as well that you interact with. I think it's a nice car. I like it. They also have, next up is the Audi A8. I'm not going to go into it, I've already discussed it. After that, they list the Maserati Levante. So really got it in for Maserati, these guys. But again, this is a 3.8 litre V8 Trofeo. Brand new price, $143,225. Retained value, 29.13%. You pick one up for $41,725. That is a luxury SUV with style and a V8. Come on. Next up, they've also got a DS3. We've already discussed that, so I'm not going to get into it again. And then they've got another Vauxhall, the Vauxhall Mokka E. And this is the electric version again, 54 kilowatt hour, ultimate long range, retains 28.3% of its value at 3 years, 36,000 miles. Price brand new of a Vauxhall Mokka was over £42,000. Oh my goodness. But now £11,900 makes a lot more sense, quite frankly, at that price. And they've also got the Nissan Leaf. Now this Nissan Leaf. Nissan have just replaced it with a brand new, all new car. But the Nissan Leaf was one of the pioneers of the electric car segment, and it did incredibly well for them. It's a bestseller. There's tons of them around. The batteries are still going strong. A lot of them are being used for the conversions of classic cars. So it's a great car, but slightly antiquated tech compared to what we've got today. Nonetheless, brand new price was $29,290. Retains 26.97%. This is for the 39 kilowatt Ascenta. That gives you a value today of £7,900, so less than $8,000 for one of the absolute pioneers of the Nissan Leaf. Now, if there are going to be any collectible electric cars going forward, a Leaf is probably going to be one. First generation Leaf is probably going to be one of them, or not first generation, but you know what I mean, with the initial Leaf. So you know, you might want to look at that one. Anyway, so now we're going to move to another one. This is from MotorTrader.com, and this one's a little bit different. They've got far less detail on the car, but what they've done is they've looked at the depreciation after just 12 months, after just 1 year. They've stated they've used this, they've based this on Parker's Guide. So, you know, I started the website for Parker's back in 2000 when I used to work for them. I was the online editor for that. So Parker's, and I know how they work, and I know, you know, how diligent they are. So, you know, this is from Parker's, and they're pretty good. So they've looked at, which is interesting, that the MotorTrader.com, which you think would use, you know, trade industry data, is actually looking at Parker's Guide stuff. But anyway, Parker's Guide must have put this out, so they're listing it. So credit to both of them. And this is the top depreciators for the first year up to January 2024. So January 2023 to January 2024, value after 12 months. Biggest depreciator on this list at 54.8% from new in 1 year is, yes, you probably guessed it, it's our old friend, the Vauxhall Corsa Electric Ultimate. So, but this is the top of the range one. So brand new price was $38,000 for a Vauxhall Corsa. I'm not even finished yet. £38,530. Loses, like I said, 54.8% or over £21,000 to come to £16,275. And I'm sure a lot of you are saying that even at 16 grand, that's still too much for a Vauxhall Corsa. But that's only a year old. That's a year old. So that has come down. So that, you see what I was saying earlier about cars finding their real price. And I was saying earlier that a Corsa in our heads is a 16, 17 grand car. So in 1 year, the first time when it theoretically hits the used market, it immediately comes down to a price where people probably see that car. They see it at 16, 17 grand. And yes, that near 40K Corsa comes down to just over £16,000 in 1 year. That's extraordinary. Next up at 52% in 1 year is the Fiat 500e. It loses £17,765 from its new list price of £34,140, which means you can then pick it up for, this is actually £100 more than the Corsa at 1 year. This is £16,375. But again, the new price was a bit lower, so therefore the depreciation is slightly less. So, but £16,000 for the 500e Fiat. That's the electric. That's a new electric one. It's kind of cute. It's got personality. It's not a bad little car, so that kind of makes sense. You would, wouldn't you? And after that, we have at 48.9%. We have got the Mercedes-Benz EQS, so another electric car, brand new. This was £170,800, £170,800 for the Mercedes-Benz EQS. That's a big old luxury thing though, proper barge. It loses a staggering £83,500 in just 1 year, and you can pick it up and it's still quite pricey, £87,265. But you know what? If you're running a chauffeur business or something like that, then you know that might be worth looking at. But it lost nearly 49%, so 48.9%. Next up at 47.6%, a Porsche Taycan. And I think you probably want a Taycan. This is a Taycan S. You probably want a Taycan more than you want the Mercedes, right? But this was even more expensive, £186,300. It lost £88,620, but it's still pricey at £97,680 that you have to pay for it a year on. But that's, you know, half the price, so it's still worth looking at, right? So actually we've got 43.3%, and that is the BMW M8. BMW M8, £158,555, loses nearly 88 grand, and you can pick it up for 89,870. At 40 1.8% joint. There's two cars, and these are actually more practical and more affordable if you like. We have the MG ZS EV, which started with a brand new price of 35,440, and this is a great car. I've reviewed it, it's really good. It lost £14,800 approximately, and available now for a year on at £20,625. So basically it lost about 15k. And that's not a bad car for that money, honestly. And then you've got the Hyundai Ioniq S, which again, and it's a bigger car than you think, you know, for what it is. Comfy, practical, good looking, very stylish, the Hyundai Ioniq, and quite class leading when it came out. £54,385 is its new price. And again, like I said, it lost the same amount, 41.8%. So it lost £22,765 and available now for £31,620. 41.3%, we have got a Maserati Gran Turismo. So if it's the Gran Turismo, because they haven't specified it here, because I think the petrol version came out later, so I'm guessing this is the electric version. I'm guessing this, so you may correct me in the comments, but because they haven't written it here, they've just said Maserati Gran Turismo at £213,070. I'm guessing that's the electric version. Lost 41.3% of its value. That means it lost about £88,000, and you can pick it up for £125,130. So the next one is the Kia EV6, which is basically the Kia version of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. That car, and again, I've driven the EV6. It's really good, actually, really, and it's smooth, sleek. So, you know, slightly different looks, you know, if you prefer them. 40.8% it loses in the first year, so a brand new price of 62,620 drops 25,570, and you can get it for 37,050 pounds. So that's not bad, actually. That's a bit of a keeper, actually. But the last one on this list, and the one that probably, if I had to get electric car, and I've said this before, this is the one that I would get. It's the BMW i4, and it doesn't say M50 here, but looking at the price of 70,845 brand new, I'm guessing that is in fact the BMW i4 M50, and that lost 37.8%. It lost £26,810, and it's on the used market for £44,035 after just 1 year. And I tell you what, I did have a sneak peek, and cars that are now coming up to just over 3 years old, they are as low as just under 30k on the used market for the i4 M50, which, as I've repeatedly said in many videos, is probably my favorite EV to drive, because it still feels like a BMW. It's got the BMW, you know, the sense of driving it, the handling, the dynamics, it's all there. It's got this incredible Hans Zimmer generated artificial noise. Hans Zimmer is a famous composer for movies and what have you, that really kind of, you know, gives you that sensory thing that you need when you're driving these cars. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that. I don't have any intention of buying electric yet. Just doesn't really suit my circumstances, but I would be keeping an eye on those ones to see how low they come down. Anyway, there's your list. Which one would you have, and have I missed any? Put them all in the comments. Make sure they hit like, share, and subscribe on your way out, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Running a business these days, especially if you're a one-man army, is exhausting. Believe me, I can tell you all about it. From getting new clients, to chasing payments, to creating the content, it can be chaos. That's why I want to tell you about my friends at Strategency. Now, they help solopreneurs and small business owners, especially folks in the car scene, automate, scale, and actually grow their business. Websites, content strategy, Instagram, WhatsApp, it's all sorted. If you're ready to go from being overwhelmed to in control, book a 15-minute consult at the link in the description. And tell them Brown Car Guy sent you. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.